Everything is personal right here. Everything is personal right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Everything is Personal. And today, I think is the first time that I have a two-time guest on Everything is Personal, George Sadler, man. How's it going?
Thanks. Good to see you. Thanks.
You too, man.
Good.
I wanted to do this with you because it's so timely, and I'm gonna make sure that I get this edited and put this up as soon as possible because I live in LA and you as well, and we were affected by these fires in a way that it was really interesting because I've been out in LA for like 16 years already, and we get fires every year, and it's in the summertime, and there's some things we don't learn, uh, but this is winter time. It's sort of such an unprecedented thing that happened, and it affected. I think that I read somewhere that every single person in LA or the surrounding area knows at least one other person who was personally affected by the fire if they weren't affected themselves. So I wanted to
Yeah.
first ask you about how it affected you, and then we can talk about the things that you're doing.
So it's kind of funny. 2012, I lost my house and everything that I owned in the Potrero fire, which was during that, whole big thing down here with the witch hazel and, all this, that whole scene. And ironically, I bought a house that was a burn down in 2012 in Poway, 3-4 years ago, and a rebuild. That whole neighborhood was decimated except for one house. So, since then, it's kind of just been a tough, position when I see these fires, and because I'm personally attached to every single person that is affected by this, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like on the level of driving out of somewhere and not sure if you're going to make it out alive. I physically was engulfed in flames, like over the road, the cars. I lived in an area outside of Hamul, so I was up in the mountain area, and I honestly, I didn't think we were going to make it out. And so I understand that, and I understand what it's like to be that sense of urgency, of getting out, and that confusion of what do I take, and what you do, you take your life and you go, and the rest of it is all just, unfortunately, you have to learn that that's meaningless. Your memories move forward, and that's kind of where you really want to focus. But yes, I've met a lot of people affected by the fire. I've had a few friends that have lost their houses just outside of Palisades, and yeah, it's just it's horrible. And so when you're in a position of anything, and I mean, you don't realize what this takes from people, and you don't realize how much just a case of water or $10, anything truly helps. I don't know what the numbers are. Last I was understanding, there's 100-something thousand people that are displaced, and it's probably, honestly, it's probably way more than what we really know. And when you think about that, that's people that don't have homes anymore. They don't have anything, and a lot of people that don't have family here, and a lot of people that don't have the resources that some do to be able to to go rent a house or to go figure those things out and stay in a hotel. It's it's tough. And so when this took place, we immediately we started a water company 6 months ago, and we built an inventory up. So we're just in distribution. We just got national distribution. Takes about 4 to 6 months to get into the system and get that going. And so my son and I and our team, we just made this decision. I said, man, water's it's huge. People don't have it right now. Yeah. Not only do they not have it to save their houses, but they don't have it to drink. They don't have it, to cook. So we made this decision to donate 100,000 cans of water, and I think by tomorrow or the next day we will surpass that. I think by about 10,000.
What's the
And
name of the water company so everybody knows?
Gelato.
Yeah.
Yep. And you can go to drinkgelato.com, and that's our water company. And we're not asking for anything from anybody other than if you have anything to give directly to the shelters and the centers up there that are dispersing it. The Dream Center has been amazing. We've spent a lot of time at the Rose Bowl, and honestly, we've had 2 trucks going up every day so far through the weekend even. And ironically, we've had people that have said, "Hey, I'd love to help out." And so I've had probably 6-8 companies bring trucks down. I had somebody rent a U-Haul truck and take pallets up to the Rose Bowl, and it's gone. Like, this is gone immediately. So yeah, it really is tough.
The one thing that I love seeing is how we come together in crisis, and people like yourself who are, had some fortune in your life through hard work, etc. We can talk about that as well, but turn around and have this desire to give. Not only were you affected personally, but this is sort of human nature in a way. I love that about us, but it happened during 9/11 too, and we talked about never forget, but we forget. And these things happen, and everybody comes out, and we all want to help each other, and then some time goes by, and then we all hate on each other again. So is there a way that you think that we can kind of keep this sort of human nature, the good part of humanity together, and we can start bridging our people together, bringing them, instead of having this constant separation like we had in the past X amount of years?
I'd like to say that there's something, but I'll be honest with you. Not that I ever lose hope. I think it's just, it's kind of like the spirit of Christmas. I mean, it's there for that period of time, and then it moves on. I'm thankful for the fact that we are still, a society that does unite when it comes to these things, because if we lose that, we've lost everything. And, we still love Christmas and Thanksgiving, and, those come and then they go. But the fact that when you look at this, and I can tell you, for me, especially being hands-on with this and seeing the people, all the other rhetoric and I, the people that are starting the fires, and, all the looting and that's a karma situation to me. That, I don't like to drive down that side of it, because it takes you away from really focusing on what your attention needs to be on. And that's helping. I mean, we're dropping water off at pet shelters, we've got guys that are in the front lines with vans, literally giving water to the firefighters and first responders and people as they're coming, out of their subdivisions and whatnot. And if we lose that, we're in trouble. So, we do forget. Fortunately, go through any world war, Vietnam, it's just how people are. And I think it's kind of a healing process, because you don't want to remember this every day, but what you do want to have is the ability to unite when things happen. And I'm telling you, if you don't experience this, it's a whole different level when you're with people. It doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, none of that matters. Your focus is on people and helping and trying to do the best that we can to get people back, in their shoes and going.
Yeah,
People lost everything.
George, being on the front lines, you know, I talk to people all over the world. People reach out. It's such a beautiful thing. Like everybody was reaching out to see you're okay. I have my friends in Brazil. Hey, you got a place here. You have a place everywhere. So it was beautiful to see. But then when the original, like when the fire started subsiding, and we obviously don't have it under control yet, all these people started coming out and saying, well, you know, it's the rich, it's the you voted for this, it's the like maybe you can kind of give people a perspective so they can get out of this whole media thing that's pumping this misinformation because you're seeing it firsthand.
I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much money you don't have. Everybody's affected by this. And if you want to look at it as, you know, yes, you're rich and you can afford, it's not about the money. And maybe you live in a bigger house, you live in a gated community. But when your house burns down and everything inside of it burns down, it doesn't matter if you live in a 10,000 square foot house or a 1,000 square foot house. You lost everything. And we tend to forget that, and we try to, you know, in our way, we try to make this something that is downplayed by saying, oh, it's the rich people, they're fine. They're not fine. They're human beings just like, you know, anybody else. And so I think a lot of that is how people make themselves feel better. It's just not the truth. It sucks for everybody. You know, it doesn't matter how much money you have. This is fire. It's very dangerous. It's a mentally, it's debilitating. And then what people don't see is aftermath. I apologize. The aftermath of what's taking place here for the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. I'm telling you, for me, when I lost my house, I lost everything. It was a tough place to be for a long period of time. And even to this day, I think about things a lot different than when these fires come around. And I have things prepared a lot different than I did before because I lost everything. I mean, until you walk out of a house in a pair of jeans and flip-flops and a t-shirt and you leave your cars and you go in one vehicle, you don't want to know what that experience is like. And sometimes these things happen for a reason. As much as you hate to say that, but I'm very passionate about, it's not just about fires. It's about anything that goes on in our society that is tragic like this. When it comes to the hurricanes and all that, we are very big about helping as we can. We're shipping waters across the country. I did this, you know, back when we had the problems in Flint, Michigan. You know, I was shipping waters, whatever I could do to help, you know. And I think but it wasn't just me. I'm not the hero or at all. I'm just, you know, one person of, you know, many that I think it shows you how we are and how we can bring things together and stop talking about all the rest of the shit and focus on getting people back to as normal as possible.
Do you think that your background experience in the cannabis industry has given you some perspective on, you know, helping people that have a hard time getting help?
100%.
Yeah. So
100%.
how do you think?
I will tell you this, and I can tell you back from in the beginning for us, over 15 years. You know, if somebody got raided, if somebody got their place broken into, and you talk about a community that bands together, and when things are needed, even if you are, you know, the competitor side of this, we don't see a lot of that in the cannabis space. It's really just a family. I mean, we had a company just, 2 weeks ago that had a grow that they just went in and completely destroyed this grow, and it was a rage. And the first thing that happens is, I'm making phone calls. How can I help you guys? What can we do to help you guys? And we do this all the time. So I thank a lot of the cannabis side of what we've done, because it makes us realize that you can live a completely different lifestyle and world, but you can still come together to help and get people back on pace.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You had an exit in the industry, correct? Or
Yeah.
partial? Yeah. So having an exit, a lucrative exit. And I remember I've been in the industry a long time too,
Right.
where it was we're a small community that helps one another because we're all, in the gray area, so to speak. So we have to look out for one another. But in this new cannabis industry, you have a lot of, people that never even consume the plant. They're in the industry, and they're making these big moves, and there's a lot of money that's going back and forth, but they don't have that connection to,
No.
what you and I
No.
went through. So, so how do you?
Yeah.
How do you educate the suits, quote unquote?
You don't. And it's kind of unfortunate, because there's a word that people call them, and it's Chad, and and the downside is some of the newcomers in the industry, that are not the suited guys. When they see someone that's done well, sometimes I'm considered that Chad, but I what do you do? I came from literally from nothing.
Yeah.
And when you go to a certain point, we all have a place where we want to be, and we want to have a company, we want to have a brand, and the idea is to grow, and and we were fortunate that we did have an exit at that time, and we went that route, and then we're back in, and and continued on, and we doing the same thing and having fun, and but you can't educate these guys coming in. I've watched this continuously, coming from other industries, and I mean big industries, Red Bull, Voss, big industries, and they walk right through here and right out the other side. Yeah. It's just, this is a different world. I'm telling you, it's a community. And, sometimes when you do a little better in certain areas, people get offended, because it's kind of a natural thing for some people to, hate on people that have done well to a certain degree. We've been very well respected in the industry, and once again, I will do and help, and I've done that when I didn't have $1, and I do it when I do, and so it's it's just, but you can't train the suits.
Yeah, it's unfortunate too, because success leaves clues, right? And instead of hating and saying, oh, George and did this, and why don't they start learning and following in your breadcrumb trail that you left for people to see how you can start from nothing, succeed, and exit instead of that. So I find it fascinating.
I can tell you this. We don't consider ourselves, my son and I, Cody, we don't consider ourselves in any fashion of a guru in the cannabis space whatsoever. And we don't consider ourselves lucky either. We've worked our asses off. I've been through raids. I've been held at gunpoint. I've had, you name it. But I can tell you this. I've never had a person outside of the industry coming in that has sat down with me and said, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this, this, and this. But I can tell you, at least once a month, I'm sitting with people that are coming into the industry. I call them unsuited. And I'll sit for 2-3 hours with people. And I'm like blown away that they even want to talk to me about stuff. But I look back at when I was doing this, and I won't name names, but I did that. I talked with people. My son and I talked with people continuously in the industry. If they would give me 10 minutes to see, how did you get to this point? What did you do? What can you, my thing was always, if you could give me any advice, what would it be? And man, that's the information that put us in a position to move forward. I've never had one person come to me that is buying their way into this industry and ask me anything. Even the people that bought our company never asked us one thing at all.
I just don't understand. I don't understand why they wouldn't. Do you think it's more of an ego thing? Because to me,
it's ego.
Yeah.
It's ego. 100%. These guys, these people come in, they've been, either pushed out of the top echelon of what they've been doing, or somebody gives them enough money to come into the industry. It's that group thing, and there's funding that goes on, and they bring in these top guys, and they think they're gonna do this, and they don't want to have any information from anybody because it shows a weakness to them. And I do it to this day. Listen, I'm running a water company. I changed my lifestyle, and somehow my son and I have a water company, and I'm on the phone. I'm talking with everybody I can get information from, anybody that I can talk to. And I get great people that, they're big, small, whatever it is. What can we do better? What am I doing wrong? This is a very different business. But we're just trying to kind of cross brand, and now we're sitting in, we just got national distribution on the water company. And we're just continuously working.
Well, congratulations on that. But I think it also has to do with a sense of humility, and maybe because you remember sort of coming from nothing and going through the heartache and all that stuff, and people forget that kind of thing. And even the fire itself, coming out with nothing and then rebuilding, it builds a sense of resilience, but there's a sense of humility. And I just don't know. I think that it's missing all of a sudden in our industry and also across the board. So what are your thoughts about what can we do to kind of wake people up a little bit and get out of this whole ego mindset?
It's like you said, there are things we forget, and I could tell you, I don't forget living in a Volkswagen Bug for 7 months. I don't forget living in a hotel. There's a lot of those things that I will never forget, and that transcended for me to always say I would never want my kids to ever go through that side of those things. But some people just don't. You're right. They get to a certain place in their life, and they want to act. They don't remember that, and it's just I had a guy, a DoorDash guy, come to my house, and I live in Poway, and he came to my house, and I had a car parked out front, and I think my wife's car was parked out front, and it was nighttime, and he was 22 years old, and I met him out there, and I got the food, and he's like, "Hey, beautiful house, blah blah blah." He said, and he literally said, "Can I ask you a couple of questions?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." I sat with this kid for probably a half hour, to the point where my wife came outside and said, she was like, "What's happening?"
Yeah, all right,
the
man.
food is
What's
there.
going on?
I just went out to get the food, and I was like, wow. And he's just like, and it's the same thing. He said, "Is there any advice that you can give me?" And I said, "Work." It's a lot deeper than that, but I said, find something that you enjoy and go. It's the truth. You're never going to get anything handed to you unless your parents are rich and they send you money down the pipe or something. I said, otherwise, we got to work. I work every day. I have 8 kids. I
You
gotta
got
work.
you got to work, man. It's fascinating because, you know, work is one thing, but being in the cannabis business, it's more than
Oh,
just work because
oh,
you're dodge like I don't think people really understand, and especially, I had dispensaries too, but doing a DNA company, I'm not plant touching, so I don't have those stressors that I used to have, even though we're still pigeonholed as a cannabis company. But you went through, the front lines. It's just more than just work. I think there's a sense of resilience, and I'm trying to figure out, maybe there's a personality profile. Yes, you do what you enjoy doing, but how many people in our industry hit that wall and they're like, fuck that. I'm not
a
I'm
lot,
not
a
doing this
lot.
shit anymore. What keeps that resilience going to overcome?
I mean, I think if you really dive into the personality in this industry that has been able to kind of elongate through this and go through it, I think you find people that are maybe maybe a little crazy. And I don't say that. I mean, I don't say that in a bad way. I think there's just an interior competition in yourself. And my son and I, I mean, we had this conversation, I would say probably about 4 to 6 months ago. And we sat back, and we never really have like these moments where we reflect on the past or anything like that. We really never do. Um, and somehow we found ourselves saying, could you go back, knowing what you know, could you go back and do this again? And we both immediately said no. It was immediately. And it was so quick that I went through this process in my head of what it's taken to get here. And we both were like, if we put that energy into something else, would have been way bigger. I mean, it's just, and the people that we know and our friends and the families that we have in this industry, we all kind of sit around and just go, man, like, what are we doing? It's like there's so much energy, and it's like a lot of people say the same thing. It's like, man, sometimes I feel like I'm wasting so much energy in this, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, honestly. But somehow in this, it's just been this drive, and I'll be honest with you, and I'm telling you the truth. It's not about the money, and when you find these people and you look at what's happening and look at what's going on in the industry right now, it's tough. This is tough for everybody, but yet everybody is just, they're bootstrapping and just moving through all this stuff that's going on, with the states. And it's a tough place to be, but it's not a place that we haven't been. It's just another thing in this industry.
Yeah, I definitely think that there are some unique characters in this space. And I definitely believe that there's still alignment of sense of purpose. Like, I'll speak for me. To me, the injustices that we had to deal with, because it's a fucking plant, and what it can do for other people. When I get that, you're getting it right now on the front lines of fire, but when I get that, my daughter couldn't speak, and she was on the spectrum, and now she did this, and now she's feeling better. My mom couldn't walk. Like, all these different things, the feedback, that's a driver. So for me,
Yep.
when things get tough and I look at the testimonials and I talk to people and they're like, oh my God, this is life-saving, or this helped. That is the driver that keeps like pulling you towards overcoming. Yes, it's hard, but there's a reason why. So I think it's having that big why.
I think you just sparked something in kind of in the back of my head of um, why these bigger suited companies um, tend to fail. And if you look at anybody in this industry that is um, kind of the OG, or maybe not even just the OG, that mentality, we're all touching people on a different level. when it comes to that. We do a lot of work with cancer people who are patients, and anything outside of that. My grandson he's on the spectrum, and so that's something that's going to kind of flow in, at some point with him very young. But we deal with a lot of things that you get to see how much this plant does for people. And other people coming into this industry that are cashed in, they don't see it. They don't want to see it. They don't have the understanding of how to help people with this. Just the plant alone, just the things that we do outside of our company for people that need this as a medicine. And it used to seem weird to talk about it as a medicine, because people around would shunt you for that. And now it's like, come with me for a day and I will show you people. I'm not talking about people that are recreational. I'm talking about people that live day by day using this.
Yeah.
And then you'll see a different person when they do that.
Yeah, I just think a lot of people are full of shit when they try to convince themselves and it's, oh yeah, there's therapeutic properties. They never had those experiences that you had and Cody had and that I had with the people that they have to have this. This is their daily medicine. And I remember I sat with Lori Ajax, who was our cannabis czar in California. And I remember sitting with her and I had this conversation and it's so etched in my mind because it was so mind blowing. I sat with her and one of her lawyers and me and one of my colleagues. And I was telling her, I said, listen, a lot of people in California have a hard time getting the right medicine because we don't have access and all this stuff. And I was trying to lobby her, to maybe use our DNA test or just to get standards in place so everybody knows what they're putting in their bodies. And she goes, and she was like, never smiled, but she smiles for a second. And she goes, hey, listen, between you and me, we both know it's not really medicine. And I was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? You're creating policy for the state? Oh, come on, man. Like, that's what we have to deal with. So we have to deal with those, policymakers and stuff. And I was like, what do you say that? You know what I said to her? I said, maybe
brought to you by Pfizer.com.
Exactly. Maybe the way you think of medicine. All right, we didn't have a clinical trial,
right.
But there's a reason for that.
Listen, we're all crazy people. To them, we are all crazy people. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. But guess what? We're not crazy anymore. We're starting to see those people going, maybe they're not that crazy.
I also think, Jordan, I also think that people like you, who actually went, from ground up, build something, exit it out. So now, even though they may not think, maybe the therapeutic properties, the plant, but now they see it from a success story. Now, let me unravel that success story and see that there's truly a sense of purpose in a success story. So you can actually have your connection to your purpose, do the right things, and still succeed and have a financial outcome from it. So now I think people are going to be looking at you in a different way.
We've had it's kind of like that, Soundgarden, or however you want to look at it. You guys are sellouts. Yeah, I guess if that's how you want to look at it, but we bought our way back in again. I mean, I liked it so much that, it's our life. And, listen, be honest with me. If somebody came and offered you, $60 million to buy your podcast or however you want to look at it, whatever it is, your company, would you not do that for the better of your family?
I would do it for the better of my family, of my business. First of all, you just said the right thing. You got money. You were able to take care of your family, create some generational wealth, but then reinvest and continue, doing something else. I mean, that's what I would do.
Have the same people, just kind of a different chapter.
Yeah.
But the book is still going.
Yeah,
We're
you're
still
still writing.
writing the book.
For sure.
And, I get it. And, but I tell people, I said, listen, you talk about Live Golf and PGA, and listen, those guys go, this is business. This is about my family. It's about, way more than what people see. Oh, you're a sellout. You went to Live Golf and you took the $600 million. Bro, come on. We first of all, our company, like we said, our company wasn't for sale, but just like anything else, it's for sale. When somebody comes and says, we'll give you this much, okay, I mean, it's a game changer. And to the date, if you really look at this, we are one of the only companies that sold with almost zero paper. It's a cash deal. So, we're not sitting on the back end of this, got tossed out of the company and, didn't make money, but anybody that didn't or wouldn't do that, to me it's just a mistake, because we have gone on to do much bigger and better things in the industry.
Yeah. And it's a validation of all the hard work and labor that you put in there. You finally were able to get that validated, and then you reinvest back in.
I had a conversation with somebody about a month ago, actually probably 3 weeks ago. And they said, you know what? With what you and Cody did, that showed us what we are capable of. And I said, dude, thank you for saying that. That's all I ever needed. That's it. I'm still here. I'm still doing the same thing that I was doing. And I'm giving what I can give and helping where I can help. And, look, I mean, I get it. I don't have to go spend $200,000 giving waters away and everything that we're doing, but I can do it.
Yeah.
And so, why wouldn't I? It's water. It's helping people.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And so the cannabis industry, ended up giving you so much. What do you feel you're giving back to the cannabis industry now, if anything?
Well, I mean, we're back into the industry. I think, jobs again. We've got a couple hundred employees again. Just the ability to create that side of it, to us is huge. I mean, having people on a very good pay scale, insurance, all that stuff. We've been doing that since the get-go, not because the state requires it. We've been doing that from the beginning, because, helping people and the things that we can do in helping families within our company. We buy cars. We help people all the way through the process. Families that are having babies, and it's just, there's so much to this that I think we're in this. I don't know. I don't know that I'd ever be out of it, to be honest with you. And listen, if somebody wants to buy the company, I'll sell it.
It's always
again.
for sale, man. Always for sale. Everything's for sale.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah. I got kids. I got 8 kids. Anybody want kids? No, I'm just kidding.
You got to pay for them. You got to pay for them. They're expensive.
Yeah, no, that's.
I have one.
Yeah,
I have one 20-year-old daughter, so I can't imagine multiplying that by 8.
I have 2 sets of twins under 3. I have 5-month-old daughters, and then a son and daughter that are 3.5.
And your grandfather.
I'm a grandfather of 3. Yeah, I have kids the same age as Cody's kids, my grandkids.
It's amazing.
It makes for some great people going, so what do they consider to this and that? The other day, it was funny. We took the kids up to Lions, Tigers, and Bears, which is a place up in outside of Julian or whatever. And we've done a lot of work with those guys and helping support that up there. And they had Santa Claus and all that up there. And my kids were going up, and the lady said, "Oh, how nice! Look how nice that is. Grandpa's up there with the kids. With my
That's what he's gonna
kids.
get,
My
man.
my buddy was laughing his ass off. He's like, "Hey, Grandpa," and she's like, "Oh my God, your kids."
Oops.
Well,
That's
whatever.
a
What are you gonna
whole
do?
separate podcast. I want to know all about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Is
So,
8 enough? I get that all
uh,
the time. Is 8 enough?
yeah, it is enough, man. Because I was thinking, when I got divorced 12 or whatever many years ago, I was like, man,
Right.
it'd be nice to have a boy. But I'm like, I'm in my 50s. Maybe I'm too old for that shit. But yeah, I guess not.
I was, once again, I was out in for New Year's Eve, and there was a friend of mine, kind of a new friend, but he said, "Hey, he said, I got to tell you, you're 57, you have these babies and this and that." He said, he's got 2 kids with a previous wife, and now he's got a new wife, and he's like, she's her fiance, and she's like, yeah, she's wanting kids and this and that, and he's 45 or 46. He said, I spent the weekend with you guys. We were in the desert, and he called me, and he said, I spent the weekend with you guys, and he said, his fiance wasn't there, but he was, and he said, I literally just, like, after watching you with the kids and this and that, he said, it made things so easy for me to make the decision to say, yes, let's have a baby. I said, yeah, I hope you're thanking me for that 10 years from now.
I know, right? You're an inspiration, but
Yeah,
remember, when
he's that,
when
he's
you're
that guy
67, I don't know, man. My
10
knees,
years
my
from now,
back.
he's gonna be like, so
Cool, man.
yeah.
I have a couple questions I ask all my guests, music related stuff, and I'll go back and ask you about where can people engage and all the other stuff that you're doing. But I may even ask you the first time you're on, but it was so long ago. We'll go back again. Do you remember, and if so, the very first concert that you attended?
The very first concert that I went to,
Yeah.
yeah,
What
I
was it?
sure do. Journey and Bob Seger.
Love that. Very cool. What was
Journey and Bob Seger.
what was the last concert that you went to?
Man, I went to Metallica up in your way. Yeah, no, it was Post Malone.
Cool.
Post Malone.
Another music question. So for the next year, you can only listen to 5 albums. You don't have to name the name of the album. It could be a Post Malone album or something like that. What will be those 5 albums?
I'm really into Post Malone on the countryside, which is kind of funny. Fade to Black is always one of my go-tos. I'm a huge Cheap Trick fan. Man, I'm old school too. AC/DC is always, if you're talking about ones that I have to listen to, yeah, AC/DC. Soundgarden's always good too. I'm not saying that because of your shirt, but yeah, AC/DC, Metallica, Def Leppard, and Motley Crue. I've seen Motley Crue, I hate to say it, probably 15 times. Those would be, if I have to sit and listen to them, that's it. Most of the stuff I can't listen to for a long period of time, but
Yeah.
those are ones I've been listening to forever.
Yeah, me too. All right. So final question on this. Please describe what your room looked like growing up.
What my room looked like growing up. So if you took Jeff Spicoli and mixed that up with heavy metal, that would be my room. Posters everywhere. Posters on posters. Depending on the age, smell of weed was there.
Yeah, exactly.
Big into surfing, but big into hard rock. Uriah Heep was another one of my go-tos. Just a lot of stuff. Led Zeppelin, of course, and whatnot. But yeah, my room was it was definitely a mess. But surfboard, skateboards. I was big into skateboarding. Got into BMX a little bit later, but a lot of surfing and then metal, like a lot of metal. I listened to Iggy Pop. You know, that was another big one. Black Flag was another one. I could go on.
Yeah,
but somewhere in this, you know, I kind of keep that in the car in a lot of ways, and I started getting into like Post Malone and like that whole thing. But you know, you can't listen to it for very long, like over and over. I can listen to AC/DC. I can listen to it all day long.
Yeah, forever. I agree with you. Zeppelin, all those classic. That's why they're classics. They're going to be forever. George, where can people engage with you, Gelato? Is there anything that you want people to do, to know?
I mean, I think just like anybody else, I mean, everything this day is based off of social media and whatnot. You know, I mean, we're drinkgelato.com is our, you know, water side, and gelatocanna.com, anything on those platforms, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or wherever, you know, I mean, that's the main thing. You know, like and follow on whatever you so choose. I think the big thing is just if you have time to help, go up and help. I mean, when you see these people working, these are going 24 hours. These centers are going 24 hours.
Where should people help? Because there's so much noise.
So the Dream Center is massive. I mean, the guy up there, he is incredible. I don't know where he gets his energy. Incredible. And what he's doing is it's amazing. Rose Bowl is another huge spot. And then there's so many. Like, honestly, you get up there and you can go, you know, 5 blocks, and there's going to be, you know, somebody that's housing horses and stuff. It's, I don't know where you're at in LA, but what I've seen, a guy had, you know, 5 horses or 5 donkeys and some horses and stuff that just showed up in his yard, you know, because they just let him out the gates and go. And he's out there feeding them, and they're just hanging out. I don't know if it's something that with the fires, but 4 days ago I had a white pigeon on my house, and he was following me around. Never had anything like that. And I'm like, then I started looking at it. He's got a band on his leg, and you know, I'm like wondering, did it come from a neighbor, or did he just fly down from the fires? But he's at my house. I'm feeding him, and he follows my kids and everything around on the outside. I have no idea, but just help. That's all it is. You know, right now it's just, this is going on. You know, I mean, I feel bad because, you know, we're going to do 120,000 cans of water, and that doesn't even begin. You know, I mean, that's not where we stop. You know, but it's going to be going on for a long time. Yeah. So we tend to think that the fire goes out and everybody's fine. It's not. This is going to go on for a long. This is one of the biggest things to happen in California. It's the biggest ever. You can take earthquakes. You could take, you know, Oakland, the bridges falling. This is huge. You know, people don't have homes right now. So there's people living in cars. There's people living in shelters. There's people living on the streets. So anywhere that anybody can help, and you know, you hear it a lot. It's $5. It goes a long ways. You know what I mean? You feel really good too. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little selfish when it comes to that. So I challenge anybody, because that feeling that you get, you do feel selfish when you get that feeling of how you can help somebody like that. And if you really want to feel it and see it, go there. Go there and be a part of the chain of people that are, they're not paid. These people are not paid employees. They're up there and they're handing out water, blankets, food, everything you could think of. Everybody's helping. So, you know, if you have time to sit and watch your favorite show, you have time to go up there, and I promise you, you're going to feel so much better in doing that than you will. My guys that are doing this, they're begging. There's like, they go through these moments of just like wanting to cry, but then just helping people. They're like, my guy, they're calling me and just going, "Thank you for letting me go up there." And go tomorrow, you know? So yeah, if you got a couple bucks, you got a little bit of time, anything helps, honestly. Even just being up there to talk with people, you know what I mean? It's a big deal.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you for everything you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for my audience, thank you for listening, and please, everybody around the world, give. And you, as little as you can, as much as you can, just give, because as George was saying, it's devastating. Everybody knows somebody has been affected if you weren't affected yourself. And enough of this kind of, this whole political thing. We're all human beings,
No,
and people
we don't
are,
have time for that.
yeah, people are suffering. So, please give. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
Thank you. Good talking with you again.